Okay, everybody. So in this video, I'm going to go through exactly the same techniques that we did for the interior rendering, but I'm going to do it for the exterior. And we're going to sort of do our little trial and error and see what we get. So what you're looking at here is this little one-room cabin I've sort of modeled up. Kind of a fun little project. I wouldn't mind having this. Look at this contemplation space. I can go in there and think about my life. Spend way too much time on the mistakes I've made, that kind of stuff. And that's nice. Okay, so here we are. Little cabin in the woods. I got it all on this giant chunk of land. Okay, so I know you guys are familiar with geolocation. So in that last model I showed, it'd be really great to do a little geolocation so that you could see through the windows in the background. And here, I got it open. See through these windows in the background some kind of undulating terrain or trees or something. So that would really bring that initial render to life, which is right here. That's the one that we did. Okay. But just one comment on this. What really separates this from, say, any sort of SketchUp render is the use of gradients. That's what makes it look photorealistic. So you see how it goes from dark to light, um, light to darker with a blue hue, um, darker to lighter here. All of those gradients combined is what really makes that sort of photorealism and makes it have depth and look really good. So that's what we're after. So here we are in this exterior rendering here. I'll go ahead to the scene that I've saved and we'll use this. Okay, so let's go into our podium settings. So I'll bring the toolbar down. I'm going to leave it up here because then I think it stays up here in between. I don't have to keep closing things. Let me kind of close that podium manager from before. So let's go to settings first. I'll keep it on 640 by 480 to start with, just to do our testing. I'll do exterior default because we're clearly doing an exterior shot. I'll keep this PNG transparent, and the image save location will keep to model just like before. For environment, let's set it to default first. We'll start there and I'll do a reset and on the intensity and exposure. And that looks good. So I'm going to save that and I'm going to go ahead and give it a render. So here's my podium manager. I can click this and hit show. Bam, already done. Look at that. So that looks pretty good. I'm seeing some nice ambient lighting of everything, right? I'm not looking for that intense shadow line yet because I haven't turned on the sun. So think of this as your overcast day. So I would say in the default background preset, this looks pretty good. You're seeing some reflection on that glass there. So that's the only material that I have in here that has any sort of reflection whatsoever. Okay, so let's go into the settings once more. I'll go to the environment. I'll just put on physical sky 1, keeping everything at its default settings, hitting save, and we'll do another render here. Okay. Now let's just look at the difference between these two. Doesn't look like much if you ask me. So if I go back to this one, I don't know, it looks a little brighter in some areas. Looking in the background, I'm not really seeing that much of a difference. Let me just double check that I got that. I don't know if I changed this. Yeah, I did 1. Now I'll do 2. Let's try that. Let's see if 2 looks any different. Could be the time. Well, no, that shouldn't matter because I don't have my sun on yet. Let's take a look. Everything looks the same. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. All right, clean these up. Let's go back in there and see what we got. Exterior default, environment, physical sky. Hmm. Well, let's just put it on default for now, and I'm going to hit save. And then I'm going to give it one render so we have it in our queue because it also takes like 5 seconds to render this thing. Bam, there it is. Okay, now I'm going to turn on the shadows. So now you see that direct sun coming down here, kind of shining in the structure. Go ahead and hit that. Here it is rendering. Let's see what we get. And we can compare the sun on to the sun off. Okay, so I'm getting a big shadow from that tree there. I'm getting that shadow line. Now if I go to this, we don't get any of that sort of shadow definition. I don't get it over here. I'm not getting it over here. Now, a lot of the materials in here don't have any settings on them. So that's why we're not like, it kind of has a flatness to it. So we're not seeing any reflection or anything like that, except in that glass there. Okay, so what I want to do is actually let's play with the time. So right now this is 4 in the afternoon in November. So it's going to be a pretty, that might be why we weren't seeing the physical sky in its like true form. So let me go to like noon in like August, maybe July. Ooh, look at that. No, that's too late. I want to do middle of the day. You can kind of see the shadow here. Let's just see what happens. Looks good. I mean, not much of a difference because we're not seeing like an intense shadow line, but it's definitely brighter, I believe, than this one. Maybe a little. I like this one better, seeing that dramatic shadow line. Let's see what else we can do here. Let's clean this up. Just want to see the sky more. Let me back up a little bit. See, now I can see that sky back there. I don't know why that really wasn't appearing that much before. So now you can see the blue up there. That's what those settings do. I'm going to move this sun, the time. Let's get a more dramatic. Maybe there. And now I'm going to hit render. Maybe I didn't hit save before. Okay. So it's a little darker, right? Because it's later in the day. So this is kind of the effect I was kind of thinking about. So this one is default sky, and this one is podium sky 2 or whatever I set it to, and later in the day. This is kind of middle of the day. Let me leave it on podium sky 2 and put it towards the middle of the day. Let's see what that does. Still can see the sky up there, so that's good. I can always go back here to environment and change it to physical sky 1. Let's see what that does. Skies kind of look the same to me. This one fades more to like a purpley on the bottom, which is okay. Let's look at this one. No, that's not the one I want. Getting lost in my renders, but you can understand how that can happen. I'm just looking through these. All right, cleaning them up. So I would say physical sky 1 or 2 look just fine. Now I might want to crank these up a bit because it looked a little dark. All right, so I'm going to save. Actually, let's go to output. Let's do something like a little bigger. Exterior default, that looks good. Yeah, we'll leave it there for right now. All right, let me just do one more render here. I think that intensity does help a little bit. Again, we're seeing flatness just because we have nothing going on in these materials, but that's looking pretty good. Let's crank it up even more. These trees are a little goofy, but because they're two dimensional, so they kind of cast shadows on each other. But I think that looks kind of cool too. So that looks pretty good. So I would say like we're kind of in a good place to start messing with the materials, and then we can start adding lights. So just to show you how this might look, let's go ahead and I'm going to give this a big render, like something like that. And let's render that. Look at this. Me, me, me. Sometimes your it'll come into the queue here, but it won't have started for some reason. But you can always click on it, and hit start, and that should sort of get things moving. So here's this one sort of rendering out at 3,000 some pixels. So this will be a nice high quality image. Looks like it's resampling the edges here. So as you noticed in the actual model, I've got lines and things happening on this material. So this is just lines that I drew um, in SketchUp, modeled over. Um, it's flush with the green material. So Podium doesn't register that. So we're going to talk about how we can sort of get information, line work, specifically shadow work, and bring that into Photoshop just like we did on Project One. So that's why that looks that way. That's why we're losing some of that definition that we're seeing here, especially here, all these nice lines on here. Now I could get those lines to appear here if I modeled all those grooves in here. If those grooves were in here, it would appear here. So let's go to our oh, look at all these renders I just made. So which one is the latest? I think it's this one. Let's see. Podium. I believe it's this one. Okay, so now if I open this guy, and well, we'll find out because I'll just open it and we can where are you? With Photoshop. There we go. Now let's go up and go image size. Yeah, this is that 3,000 foot one. So where the sky is, look at that. It's all cut out already for me. So I could put any cloud image I want back here that I find online and sort of have it fill all those gaps. I don't have to cut all those little holes out. So it'll look really nice. If I wanted to keep the sky that was in, go here. If I wanted to keep the sky that was actually in the render, all I would have had to do is re-render this as a JPEG, and then it'll be a flat or just unchecked transparent, and then that blue will stay in there that we see in the. Well, let's just do it because it takes like a minute to do. Did I hit render? No, I didn't. That would help. So let's go here. Here it is rendering out. So these renders, they always look better with the more detail you have. The more detail in your model, the more photorealistic and awesome it'll look. So you could look at that furniture piece I did on that interior one, had all those little lamps and things like that. I mean, there's quite a bit there. So pretty neat to see all that stuff. So this is almost done rendering. I'm going to go to the where everything is saved. So it looks like it's done. That's it right here. Now I'm going to say open with Photoshop, and now I have the blue. So, whatever image I want to use. Slight change in things. That's just how rendering works. But maybe I like that blue. I could just keep it like that. And now I could go ahead and start my post production in here. But this is a really nice image because it's 3,000 pixels across and it took 1 minute to render. Um, it would definitely take way longer to render once we get reflections and things in there. So I will be adding that information next. In this model specifically, you can see that I've created sort of different light fixtures here. So I'll show you how to sort of add lights into those and make them kind of shine down on our architecture, and other, point lights and things we can put in here to really make this thing glow. So materials and lighting is next, but this is a good introduction to sort of the um, ambient environment of Podium as well as the sun and how to control those two and just get a good render. So I encourage you to use the interior model and this exterior model to sort of um, practice what we went through in here because you're going to be using that as we move forward. All right, thanks, guys.